Okay. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good evening and a very warm welcome to both our distinguished speakers today and to the viewers of the BSE Reboot. It is organized by the Bombay Stock Exchange and ARC Legal. So, today's talk is centered on the discussion of privacy as a battleground for market research. Hardly a month goes by without it being reported that another company has had its online data breached. Therefore, it is unsurprising that 85% of the consumers worldwide believe that businesses should be more actively trying to protect their data. And 61% of these consumers say that their fears of having their personal data compromised have increased in the last 2 years. From loyalty programs to inventory planning to smart cities to election advertising, private data and its usage, it's hard to overestimate its usage in today's market research companies. Therefore, as we look towards a data-driven decade, it is essential to view privacy's role as a differentiator for such companies. For today's discussion, privacy as a battleground for market research, we have with us the chairman of the Inam Group, Srivallabh Bansali, investment banker, venture capitalist, and stock market expert. He is the co-founder and chairman of the Inam Group, a pioneering equity research company in the country. He is a promoter of spiritual and cultural traditions and also an expert on development economics, behavioral science, and communication. He has been a part of policy making and has served on various advisory committees of the Government of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The discussion, we also have with us Ms. Khushbu Jain. Ms. Jain is a practicing advocate before the Supreme Court of India and the founding partner of ARC Legal. She has been the legal counsel on several complex and path-breaking corporate and criminal cases. Ms. Jain has been helping in capacity building by imparting skills to various government and international institutions in the field of cyber technology and related crime investigations. She is also a regular columnist for the leading newspapers in our country. So, without taking any more of your time, I request Ms. Jain to bring this exciting conversation forward. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vaibhavi. Vallabhji, it's wonderful to share with you, and I was looking forward for this from quite some time. Without taking much time, as Vaibhavi was talking about that the industry, whereas market research industry is concerned, it has grown exponentially. Obviously, giving the way we generate the data, and we are one of the largest second largest data generation country, and at the same time. How important it has become, and also in consonance with right to privacy, the advent of right to privacy going hand in hand. So to understand today's aspect, when she was talking about breach, that not hardly a month goes without being reported. I don't say it's a month, hardly a day goes when a company has not reported its online data security has been breached. Therefore, I would say that when it comes to security of the personal data, it has become one of the utmost priority for the companies. But today we are not talking about the issues, not about security, but I want to take it, digress it to more with regard to privacy, data privacy, and security can be a debate for another time. So when it comes to data privacy, the waters are perhaps little more murky, because we are living in a world where many of us like to share the likes, dislikes, everybody's movements with the world of social media without giving it a second thought. We also want to share the platforms to put our opinions. At the same time, let's not forget about the cookies and the way we browse, and we are dependent in this digital age on searching everything and anything under the sun over the internet. So looking at all these aspects, there are two things, where a social media generation is concerned, where they do not talk about, they give no, if I say, they give no two hoots, or how their unidentifiable or non-identifiable details and preferences are accessed and used. But there should be a question that has to be answered as to what extent should the market research industry continue to abide by its self-imposed data privacy rules? What is your opinion on this, Vallabhji?
So I think this is an evolving process. If you look at internet itself, whenever a new innovation comes, it tends to get abused. We know that. whether it was arms, ammunition, whatever, etc., it falls into wrong hands because they are more imaginative and etc. So I think this is also a similar thing. A new phenomenon that came into the world in the last 20, 30 years is free. Search is free, mail is free, and free does certain things to people. Free makes us abuse. The moment you have to pay for something, we behave differently. But this whole billion customer phenomenon is also new. And when there is a possibility to get billions of customers onto a platform, the temptation is to go out and just get them. All these things didn't exist, right? The number of TV subscribers, number of telephone subscribers, we could never imagine that, it can go into a billion in a few years. And now it's happening in 1 year, 2 years, WhatsApp acquiring that many billion customers and so on. So this is also a reflection, just as internet enabled, this kind of customer, large customer acquisition, the customer also experienced for the first time such freedom, such privileges that, I can search, I can connect, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it's a melee. It's something just completely overwhelming for everybody. The governments are dealing with it. So only very few smart companies who really invested in the talent, who are investing upfront, hoping that, they are going to get the returns over tens of years. They are investing all that capital upfront. What used to in a normal enterprise, you invest in 20 years, they invest in 2 years. And now these are new business models. Therefore, valuing such companies is also a problem. And, we are seeing that how they are yo-yoing from, huge to crash and so on. So I think we need to be more patient and appreciative of what we are dealing with. And you cannot separate the two. In psychology, we have somebody who are voyeurs, who want to look at things. I want to look at what's happening in the social media. And there are some exhibitionists, who want to show, I look like this, I do that, etc. So this is classic human behavior out there for us. Now, from a business point of view, forever, if it was Diwali or Eid or Holi, and if I went into the market to buy color or sevaiya or whatever, crackers, and if I know shopkeeper keeps it, I'll be very disappointed. I want all the shopkeepers to keep what I want. Now you say, no, you cannot check out whether, it is Holi or Diwali. It is the job of a business to anticipate customer need. And the customer is very happy. As long as there's competition to meet that customer need. So the important thing is that whatever happens, does the society, regulation, government ensure that there is competition? And that's where, America has been better at it. Europeans are also trying. So I think a lot of these issues are mixed up. Some are natural trends. Some are trends which are very necessary for, consumer behavior, consumer satisfaction. And then, like anything else, there is abuse. So I would say that, people are not caring for their privacy, the way they are behaving, they're looking for, I agree, cookie policy, this will improve your experience, let's just click. So that hurry, excitement, that is also a big reality. And so I think we will get to a situation soon, because a lot of debate is happening. No country has been able to crack it correctly yet. So this is a gray zone. I think our country has started on it. I don't see villainy in this. There will always be some amount of villainy in every new phenomenon. But on the whole, I think these consumers are also learning. Lawyers like you are making people aware. So it's not such a hopeless bad debate as some people try and make it.
Absolutely. I think it's growing, and I think when you talk about evolution, yes, it's an evolving process. People are understanding, companies are understanding, people are making aware about how this industry should shape up, from consumer point of view, from market research point of view, from companies point of view, who are data fiduciary. But if I specifically restrict myself to market research, as an industry has always maintained an ethical standpoint that differentiates itself from, industries weighing on consumer information, taking the view that nothing is ever given, and that there is a fundamental requirement to be utterly transparent at all times and always ensure permissions for data either identifiable or non-identifiable. These are the two aspects, again, I want you to, to harp upon. But yeah, either identifiable or non-identifiable that are explicitly granted. Now, this point of view has been placed under a very increasing pressure, looking into way US has come up with the regulation, the way UK has come up with GDPR, where the way data has been collected and how it has to be collected has become a lot of pressure over the industries, and from that industries and security breaches, the same has percolated, whereas market research industries are concerned. So if I quote that the stronger the privacy regulation the research industry imposes, the greater credibility it retains. What are your views?
So, this is what we call classic sizing where the sweet spot is. Sometimes you'll go right, sometimes you'll go left. Sometimes it is too restrictive. Everything which is too restrictive does not become valuable. Unless it is inclusive, it is usable, it is meaningful, it does not become useful again. So simply by being very restrictive and very strict, it may become credible, but it may not be very useful because you're not able to get enough data. And in statistics, size of the sample also matters. The purity of the sample matters, but the size also matters. So I think this is an ongoing thing. Important thing that we must probably also pay attention to is that what does the consumer want? Does the consumer really care for privacy as much as some of the people who are imagining this to be very valuable thing? Number one. Number two, in every business, you cannot do more than what you say you will do, or you cannot not do what you promised to do. If you wanted, you said you'll keep it secure, you have to keep it secure. Otherwise, don't say it. And don't do more than that. So when a device says it's a telephone, but it steals on data, obviously the regulator must come very hard on it. It must tell the consumer upfront that this will be used in this manner, etc. So that I call toxicity. But I don't know whether I've answered your question. I think that you are to the point that simply because it is very restrictive and so on and so forth, it's too hygienic, it's too boring also.
I absolutely agree. So what I can understand, or I see it everything boils down to trust. If you lose the trust of your consumers or your users in relation to their privacy, in relation to what exactly are you saying? I mean, I'm in consonance with you that it cannot be a plain straight thing. We cannot live without data. Industries cannot live without data. Policies cannot be drafted without having a proper data. Market research cannot be, I mean, for every industry, data market research is required. So ultimately it you have to be true, or you have to give a true insight of what exactly are you as an industry or as an company taking. Now coming on the point of when you were talking about the aspect that it cannot be a straight line. You were talking about that privacy. It cannot be that you cannot take it. So I want to understand more with regard to a non-identifiable and non-identifiable information, especially when we talk about the fodder which market research industry needs. What's the thin line or the gray line that we see, whereas identifiable and non-identifiable information? Because we cannot expect industries to flourish or to grow or anything to grow without having information in place.
So question is your business model hidden or is your business model transparent? Say, for example, I go into a shop and every day they see, 10 customers came, 3 bought bananas, 2 bought oranges. They do a survey. And next day they change the cart accordingly. This is a very transparent way of doing it. But you did not realize that, he's noticing how many bananas I was buying or how many days I buy bananas. They will take the risk because you always have the option of not buying bananas or not buying oranges. And because you end up buying bananas, this guy was noticing I buy bananas every day. That's not right. And therefore, question is, this is, again will end up in a gray. There will be a gray zone that if he's delivering what I want, if the whosoever the vendor is delivering what I want is one thing. The vendor is offering me what I might want, and the vendor is pushing things that I never wanted and I don't realize. I think the third case is not on. I think if we keep it very simple, that is he stealing data that he said he will not? If he is smart and he's observing, I shouldn't blame him, because I think I have the choice of refusing whatever he might do with my data. I think in all our privacy bills, we must have this situation that simply because someone has collected some data and does something as a result of it, I have the option of not taking it. It will only serve the consumer because he has more choice that way. So what increases choices should be allowed. What enables them to manipulate, and therefore I'm not aware as to what was happening, that my order has been changed in some manner, that should not be allowed. A device that does more than it says it does should not be allowed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I see today, there is still a degree of anonymity. What we're talking about is transparency at your part, which has to be a basis of every business, be it the market research, be it the online platforms, be it offline companies and things. For any businesses, any company to exist, transparency is one of the key, or should be one of the basis or foundation for the businesses. So if I see current situation, there's still a degree of anonymity, when we talk about collecting passive data, or the techniques which they use for data collection are still passive. Like if I'll give you an example, let's say tomorrow, what happens? The same example of yours, when I take that one enters into a supermarket, information what you talk about is non-identifiable. You're collecting a large data set, combining it to come up with a conclusion, or come up, or apply that, whereas business purposes are concerned, or to develop further, whereas your technology point of view are concerned, or whereas looking into the behavioral pattern of the consumers in a collected and anonymized form. Now imagine tomorrow the situation comes that this becomes a non-anonymized tracking. I mean, you're picking up something. Let's say a medical data is considered to be one of the most sensitive data or critical data, whereas countries across the globe are concerned. So imagine tomorrow they start picking up, okay, these are the medicines which you're buying, you're focusing on these medicines, and that data has been used by industries. Like for example, insurance company pick up the data, so they have data that these are the medicines which you're picking it up, or you start getting information about certain medications, in consonance with kind of medicines which you're buying. This creates a very alarming situation for consumers, where they do not want to be picked up, where their behavioral aspect should not be looked upon directly, and should not be contacted directly. An anonymized way of processing a data and coming up with a solution is still there, and currently that is there. And what you're talking about is consent after transparency, that tell me what exactly you need, take a consent from the user, that what exactly whether you want to be part of it or not, and that choice should be given to the consumers. That's what we are looking at, that those 9 principles of privacy, which APJ Shah committee also came up with, those 9 principles of consent, information, limited purpose, and limited collection, and security aspect of it. So all those option of correction. So these are the things which are there, and opt in and opt out, which is yet not there, whereas India is concerned. And that's what I think, yes, you're right, that we should be looking in, whereas new Data Protection Act coming up is concerned, where it should be part of it. Now, with that Data Protection Act, we have seen in the past how GDPR has impacted entire industry, and in a way, it has percolated to the market research industries also. It will have an impact, whereas today's industries are concerned. The moment our data protection bill comes in place, which will give much larger rights to the users, then what we are seeing today, that much rights are with the companies. What are your opinion in this aspect, that how do we see what is our future, whereas privacy is concerned? What is our future, whereas market research industry is concerned, if we look into a data protection bill, something which is in consonance with GDPR, the European Data Protection Law, if that comes into existence?
So I think if I were to look at regulation in India, uh, we have generally tended to be pretty strict, um, and um, and then we have liberalized. If you look at insurance and other areas, and it is necessary that when the market participants are not very sophisticated, they need to be protected more. As they become more sophisticated, regulators become more experienced in dealing with sophistication, the markets open up. So, I know the stock market evolution, rather well. How we didn't have derivatives and we didn't have, derivative settlement without cash and things like that. So the whole evolution has happened, and today we are we are the largest derivatives market in terms of transactions in the world. So I think the same will happen in this case, that we are a large testing ground for privacy, given the number of subscribers, number of internet, fast-growing internet, blah blah. So I think we have to make a beginning. At the beginning, it may be very strict. Also, if you were to look at our, e-commerce today, it's not as large as it is in the US. And also the size of the market, the e-commerce numbers, they may appear to be very large, but even in the US, of the total retail market, there's still a fraction only. They're growing fast. So I don't think the heavens will fall with these kind of privacy laws that we are talking about. But I definitely want to see a situation, just as I mentioned, stock market, that we have to have a North Star, that this is not where going to remain. We have to allow more sophistication. We have to allow more freedom as people get more educated. And in all this, there is a classic business model that a company in America has been offering for a long time. That company is called Costco. I think the whole trouble arises because consumer has been spoiled, and the consumer is allowed to get himself or herself spoiled by free. If search was, that all right, you can have so many searches for 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 5 rupees. You can have so many, forget emails. Emails is now, quite sanitized and proper. But if search had money, then Google doesn't have to take ads. End of the story. Make your search better, get your money. So in all those cases, Costco simply said, we want only subscription. And then if we get the goods at right price, you will buy. Otherwise, we take the risk. So our business model is simple. It has only one business model: subscription. A lot of, I think, good privacy law should lead to business models of this kind, that I'm a subscriber to a newspaper, and that is it. If there are too many ads, I stop subscribing. So we need to evolve in a manner that things are transparent by business model, not by regulation. By regulation, they never become, transparent. Great regulation will be such that you create competition, and competition forces you to adopt a model. That's where then the innovation comes. So I think all these regulations, which will, again create monopolies, because the regulations are such that the cost of compliance is so high that only some people can, meet those costs. It will be failure of regulation to that extent. It's back to licensing, Raj, in some manner. So if the regulation is such that, innovation dies, proliferation dies, the consumer suffers. Today, Indian consumer, because I have so much choice in insurance, so much choice in banking, so we have taken time to reach there. But having learned now, and having become leaders in payment now, we understand technology far, far better than most countries in the world, actually speaking, at mass level, at government level. So I think we need to put all that into use, even in this area.
Absolutely. And if we see also the way, the nature of permission is changing, there are two aspects of it. The one who argue that while using the services, assumed permission is what has been granted for consumers' data collection. And there are other set of it who understand or who feel that, and they will go out of their way to ensure that the users or the participants are not only aware that their data has been collected, but also understands what this means. So in truth, the definition of permission is becoming blurred and the battle lines are being drawn. Now, I'll just put in one quote that the definition of permission in market research is becoming blurred and battle lines are being drawn. What are your views, whereas this entire statement is concerned?
So today, what has happened is that innovation is moving at a great speed. That the way the social media has been created, forget its abuse, etc. But their ability to understand what's going on in consumers' mind, that people want an Instagram like product, the people want a Facebook like product, they want to play to dopamine, etc., with like, dislike. I think heads off to them for getting to the human psyche so perfectly. And then there will be companies which will make good use of it and companies that will make bad use of it. So I think I am basically for consumer choice. That should be the principle, that should not be lost, because too tighter regulation, in my desire for sometimes imaginative, oh, privacy is very good, etc., will hurt our regulation. So one has to look at clause by clause, etc., and that how it will work in principle. Sometime in practice, I've been part of regulatory and new regulation, etc., and my mind as always is that intellectually this may sound very good. Nobody will, it's a motherhood statement, nobody will argue about. But when it is implemented, will it allow innovation? Will it allow all kinds of people to come? Have you put the barriers too high? Are there good reasons for keeping the barriers high? Indeed, keep good barriers high, because you want that there will be high cost of compliance and only such people will come. But if that does not prevent from large scale customer onboarding, people will find the capital and come into the business. That I would say is a good regulation. So as long as my spiritual argument for something is balanced by the recognition of the real consumer interest, which is choice and creating competition, is good regulation.
Absolutely. And if I agree with you with the kind of industry that we're talking about, the market, if I put in some numbers, it has to flourish. I understand that user is the prime. We talk about that we are doing this for users, but the kind of market research that has been done, that is for users basically to provide the more optimal, front for whereas technology is concerned, whereas life is concerned, whereas opportunities are concerned, whereas better choices in a smooth manner is concerned. So all these market research is practically done for users better usage. So if I talk about this industry, the market research industry is growing at a 12 to 4% annually, whereas India is concerned, and is maybe reaching cross $4 billion mark according to the report published by the IBM. Now, as per the report of Market Research Society of India, this industry was 2.1 billion in FY21 and to double in FY26, reaching to $4.2 billion, driven by the fact that our country is the global analytics hub. So looking at that, yes, it has to flourish. We cannot have a very watertight. I am in complete agreement with you that we cannot expect a thing which is too good to listen, but when it comes to implementation, no, it cannot be implemented in a way. It will kill the innovation. It will kill the industry, and at last, it will add a cost for the consumers, because the moment you want to extremely watertight kind of a policy, if you want to implement, it is a cost for the companies, and that cost at last goes to the consumer. So to make it a place where innovation strives, where it's a level playing field for all the industries, because when we bring such tight regulations, the larger companies, the larger tech giants are at the advantages, and what we do is we scruffle the new innovation coming from startups and mid-sized companies. So I would have maybe a minute or 2 minutes of a closing remark from you, sir, so that we can close today's discussion.
So the nature of business is to kill competition. That's how it consolidates. So you will find MasterCard and Visa, two big giants. You will find S&P and Moody's, and they are the two book rating giants. So if we are not careful, uh, they become monopolies, they become oligopolies. And therefore, this recognition that, do we want market research also to fall in the hands of the moment competition goes, quality goes. So this is not easy. Drawing these lines and parameters is not easy. But understanding this philosophy and keeping this orientation that I will err on the side of getting more people into it as long as they meet certain requirements. So I must understand the requirements very correctly of security, etc., compliance. And then I will always opt on the market side.
Thank you so much. It's purely summed up for users, for industry, and both to flourish. Over to you, Vaibhavi.
So just to conclude today's talk, thank you very much, sir, for being here and having this conversation with us. Some of the main points that I learned through today's talk were, so the process through which a market research company abides by its self-imposed laws regarding data privacy is continuously evolving. And however, the free phenomena as Sir quoted it, has completely revolutionized our digital lives recently. However, as a society, we need to ensure that there is a healthy competition for satisfying consumer needs. Market research has always taken an ethical standpoint when it comes to data privacy, and it has maintained that nothing is taken without permission. However, simply being restrictive, the market research industry might become credible, but it might also lose its usefulness when it comes to the products that it provides. So when it comes to formulating regulation for data protection, anything that increases a consumer's choices, and this is a direct quote from Sir, anything that increases a consumer's choices should be encouraged, and any data usage that manipulates a consumer's choices should be regulated. So consent after transparency is of utmost importance. And talking about India, India is a huge testing ground in terms of privacy laws. And while our laws may be strict at the beginning, as our market becomes more sophisticated over time, our regulation should ideally also become more liberal. So to conclude, a good privacy law should lead to a subscription model, much like Costco. And great regulation shouldn't aim to reach transparency. It should instead foster healthy competition and innovation. So thank you both very much for hosting this incredibly exciting talk. And it was lovely to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.